Welcome, everyone. We're in the process of being connected here together as well as on Facebook Live. I am so happy you're here with me. I'm very excited to talk about money, and I'm very excited to share with you Krisstina Weiss. Krisstina Weiss is, let me say just hi to a few people first who have their camera on. Who has their camera on? Linnell, hello. We just got off the phone talking together. Way to go, girl. Be ready to ask some questions, okay? We are going to take questions, but let me...
Linnell, she has her glass of wine. She's doing it right.
She's ready to do it. Linnell she's a business guru and work corporate. Well, hello, Jeanette. I'm happy you're here. Thank you, people, for turning on your cameras. You know that I am a connector. Laura, hello, Laura. Now, is it pronounced Clarinessa? I'm probably absolutely butchering your name, dear, but welcome. Clarinessia? Is it kind of right? She's not even nodding her head, so I can't tell. All right, let's get started. I'm excited to introduce my guest, Krisstina Weiss. Her and I, and she might have a different version of the story, so I will let, maybe her and I can share the story of how we met together. But Krisstina is a money guru. She's a real estate mogul and is the founder of 3 businesses, each independently multi-million. She loves money. She loves handling money. She loves growing money. She loves everything about it. And the two of us are a bit of 2 peas in a pod in a different realm. So let's bring Krisstina on. Hi, Krisstina. With so much love for you. So much love. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you and to have this conversation. And, you know, we talk about offline that as 2 women, we love money, we love talking about it, and we love helping others that aren't quite there yet, really have breakthroughs when it comes to money and ultimately financial freedom.
Absolutely. So my recollection of how we met is we both spoke at an event together, and that's where we met. Would you say that was about 5 years ago?
Has it already been 5 years? Oh,
has it been that long? Maybe 3?
Maybe
3. That's probably more like it. And we were in a cab. So we were in Scottsdale, Arizona, and we had both spoken. We both admired each other's work. But then we hailed a cab together to go back to the airport. I have that right?
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, what do you remember?
I just remember we were standing in line to get the cab, and we both said, hey, do you want to share a ride to talk more? Mm-hmm. And we did. And then we talked about how much we appreciate each other's presentation, and then we didn't stop talking the entire time. We just not
once.
Right. We just completely hit it off.
And we've stayed in we've stayed in contact since. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. And I've referred people to our program, people we have both worked with the same person more than once. So I'm very excited for Krisstina to share some basic knowledge around money. And we're going to have a conversation. So I encourage you to turn your camera on because we're going to open it up for some questions. And from, I have a perspective from epigenetics around money and scarcity. And what I find when I work with people is it doesn't matter how much money they have. Honestly, if they have $500 or less, they're in deep panic and financial scarcity. But they can have 5 million or more in the bank, and they can still go through these seasons of despair, worrying, having nightmare dreams that money's going to run out and they're going to lose it all. And it's not uncommon. And somebody that is in poverty, literally with 500 only to their name, doesn't grasp that concept, but I promise you that it's real. And the person that is wealthy, right, it doesn't mean that they're 100% confident in their money, with their money. So we're going to talk about that a bit. And it doesn't mean that those with money really know how to handle money. You would be surprised, especially business entrepreneurs, because those that are heart-centered, I can tell you that we give. And so as you give, that's where you find your value. And so maybe money is not as important to you, right? It's that new client is important or something else is of value. That's okay. But you still have to learn how to honor money in order for money to grow. What we ignore will stay ignored, but what we pay some attention to will grow. Just like your child, if you ignore them, the relationship's going to suffer. You ignore your money and it won't grow the way it should. So Krisstina, I'm very excited for you to get started. You did bring some slides. I'm excited. And I'll kind of ask you questions along the way. But I'm very curious, just to get started. You've worked with many people, as I have. What do you find it keeps them stuck? What's a barrier that keeps them stuck?
Yeah, I'd say that there's two things that keep people stuck. One is just a fear of money. So it's just fear. It's a fear that paralyzes almost all of us. And it's just this fear of money. It's a fear of looking at the bank account. It's a fear of not knowing what to do. It's a fear of that's just subconscious. That's all these sorts of money beliefs that are really buried. So that's number one, is really a fear of this thing called money itself. Like we really want it, but we're afraid of it somehow. So that's one thing. The second thing that keeps people stuck is what I just call financial literacy. So I talk about this, like the mindset of money, which is our relationship with money. It's our beliefs about money. It's our attitudes with money. It's our abundance mindset or scarcity. So that if our mindset is off, that keeps us stuck. That's that piece. But even if that piece we've been working on and we feel abundant and we're not necessarily afraid of money. The second piece is the other side of the coin, if you will, is not understanding that money has rules, it has principles, and it has these laws. And we as a population are ignorant of these laws. It's financial illiteracy, meaning we can't read and write money. And, and there's like almost a stigma to talk about it. So how can we get good at something if we're afraid of it and or we don't talk about it? Yeah. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. You're the mindset queen, and really talking about the energy of money and the abundance and more the metaphysical aspects, which are real. And like you said, I can help people become millionaires and have really solid net worth, but that doesn't mean that they feel peace of mind. It doesn't mean that they're satisfied. It doesn't mean that they feel any safer or better or happy with money than they did when they didn't have money. So that's the mindset piece that most all of us need some work, but just the mindset alone isn't to get us unstuck. We have to learn these principles and apply them.
That's absolutely, we do. And I'm eager to get started, but I'm also just know that I might ask you along the way where you've been stuck in your life, when you've been stuck, right? Because I think for anyone to really grow money, they have to bend somewhere without it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think for the most part, unless we were raised with money, and that, there was wealth in the household, and maybe it was talked about, or it was just understood a certain way, unless we were in that small group, the rest of us have had, more than likely, we've had pretty dire financial circumstances or situations, or we grew up in very dire situations.
Or we had negative money talk in the family, even if we were middle income, where money doesn't grow on trees, and we were made to feel somehow wronged for asking for something. I remember I asked for a new Easter dress, and my dad snapped and said, "What's wrong with the one you had last year? It still fits," right? Things like that.
Yeah, and those things that
they're real.
They're real, and they stay stuck until we surface them and become aware of them and realize those same things that we heard as a child are stuck in us until we realize those and we can let those go. So
anybody had money conversations like that in your home?
Yeah.
Put a hand up. Yeah,
In fact, maybe put in the chat what you heard as a kid.
exactly. What did you hear as a child?
What, you know,
What's
I
your
mean,
belief? Was there religious negativity where you told money was evil? People did bad things with money to earn money, right? Yeah.
yeah, I mean, what I heard in my house, I mean, I started in a trailer home, so we didn't have money. I mean, all I remember as a kid is that money was fought about constantly because, and that little of money, you know,
Yeah.
it was food stamps and it was powdered milk and we had to wait certain days of the week when if we could eat meat that they had, you know, they had it like 50% off or something.
Right.
And so my parents could buy meat like once a month, not once a week. And I mean, so those sorts of things. And so what happens is that this money thing, it's interesting because in business, we can talk about money in the sense like, oh, I have $1 million business
Mhm.
or, you know, my business is 7 figures or something like in business, we can pragmatically throw out these numbers. But when money hits our household, now it's turned emotional. Now, all of a sudden, we're in this very emotional, highly engaged topic that has all sorts of emotions attached to it. And usually we have those inside the, you know, that we grew up in, this very volatile topic, maybe. Then we bring that to a marriage or a partnership, and then we have different money beliefs and we're raised differently. So now it's escalated in even more.
Right. So those old things that we hear can't come up. Brad, can you read out loud some of the money conversations that people were raised with?
Absolutely. Lisa, can you tell me if you can hear me okay?
Little low.
Little low, okay. Rich people do that. Rich people are greedy. Money doesn't grow on trees. That's for rich people. People who have nice houses, cars, clothes, have bad credit and can't afford food. And again, money doesn't grow on trees. I have to work hard for it. Let's see. My mom had to beg for money to buy food.
Yeah.
And this one is interesting. A staunch Catholicism, religious programming, and positive poverty consciousness on both parents.
Yeah. That inherited stuff is so real.
Yeah.
It just gets multiplied as it comes through that cellular memory. And so even if we think we've outgrown this, just know that there's going to come a time in your life where that informational tag gets turned on. It's part of just how the genetics are wired. And you're going to have, you know, you might be experiencing anxiety around money where you haven't before. It's real.
Oh, it's
All right.
absolutely real. And just to know that this is money's so personal because of all those many, usually childhood things. Like you said, when we can't get addressed, then we feel like we're not worthy. So money is emotional. It creates this feeling of unworthiness. We heard things like rich people are greedy. That's what I heard. Those people on the other side of the tracks, you know, that's for them. We can't do that. And, you know, I think we all know this, but we are programmed by the time we're 7 to 10 years old.
7. It's 7. It is
7. We're programmed, and we're carrying that programming around our entire lives until the day we decide to reprogram ourselves. You know, we're going to bring the same dysfunction to our relationships if we've not worked on that. We're going to bring the same dysfunction to, you know, our money if we've not worked on that. So anyway, it's just to know that all these things are normal. There's very few people that grew up in a functional, healthy household when it comes to any household, probably, but especially with money. And so when we're having this conversation tonight, it's just to understand that wherever we are, it's okay, because this money thing is not talked about and it's not understood. And the statistics show us that only 3% of the population have a net worth of $1 million or more. So only 3%. And so it's to understand that only 3%, when we're talking about wanting to be, you know, a millionaire in net worth, we think, oh, everybody else has figured it out. Everybody else has their money together, but just very few people, very few families in our country are actually bona fide millionaires. And the sad thing about that is that we all can be one, and it's never too late. We're never too old. We can all create this for ourselves. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight, is how to do that. And it's actually pretty simple. And the reason why I do what I do is because I just want to scream from the mountaintops, like, this is, financial peace of mind, financial security, financial independence, being a net worth millionaire, not $1 million business, but a net worth millionaire. It's all possible. And what I'm going to share, the 4 things tonight, these 4 things, if you do these things, it puts you on the path towards that goal and that intention. We need to have the goal and intention. But again, this stuff isn't taught in school. And this work that I'm going to talk about tonight, I work with those that make hundreds of $1,000s a year, and or even maybe $1 million a year. It doesn't matter the number. So it doesn't matter if we're making $50,000 a year or making $500,000 a year. People are still stuck, and they're still month to month with no more financial security, no more financial peace of mind, no more financial understanding or confidence. They're just really good at making a high income. It doesn't mean that money's worked out. One other thing before I jump into the 4 principles that I want to talk about tonight and cover. I like this distinction, and it's distinction between being rich and being wealthy. And so tonight, Lisa and I are going to go back and forth and talk. And please, if you have any questions along the way, we're going to open up to questions maybe throughout, definitely at the end. So put your questions in the chat box when you think of them, so you might forget them by the end. But here's the thing. We hear different terms, but there's, let's say, being rich or riches, and then there's being wealthy. So I have a distinction for these 2. And they're very different, because in money, all these terms get lumped in together. So it's hard to know what we're talking about. Now, being rich is what I call the thinking of that is that's making a lot of money. So, the latest statistics that I saw, for example, is that if you make more money than this amount, then there's no more happiness. It used to be like 75,000 or something like that, but the data has changed. And the data that I'm seeing now is that to make $300,000 a year after taxes, if you make $300,000 a year after taxes, if you make more than that towards your household, you're really not buying any more happiness. That $300,000 a year kind of covers everything. Not private planes and not
interesting
and stuff like that, but just a really good, solid life that, we can put our kids through school. We can take care of ourselves. We can live in a nice house. We can drive decent, good, nice cars. It's a really nice lifestyle that I think everyone aspires to. And so it's $300,000, meaning if you make $1 million, we think $1 million is going to make us happier, but no, it's just more stuff you could buy. But the reason why I'm telling you that is that's what I call riches. It means that we can use, let's say we make $500,000 a year after taxes that gets deposited into our household account. That buys a lifestyle, and it buys a pretty high lifestyle. Let's say it's $1 million a year, $1 million a year that we can spend on a lifestyle. That's a pretty extravagant lifestyle. So meaning we're spending all the money on our lifestyle, and it can go up from there, like celebrities and NFL player, pro athletes, that type of thing. But that's what I call riches. And riches means we're making a high income, and we can afford to buy a really fancy lifestyle. So we look rich. We can have the expensive watches. We can have the expensive bags. We can have the expensive cars. We can have the expensive houses. And technically we can afford it, meaning we're not going into debt. The amount of money we have can buy this lifestyle. So that's what I call a rich lifestyle. Now, and so we think, oh, if I could make just $250,000 a year, or $500,000 or $1 million or multi-millions or something like that, then all my money problems are going to be solved. And it's not true. We can look at pro athletes, and if we look at some of the statistics, that it doesn't matter if it's NFL or
it's so true though,
or if it's basketball or football,
it
or
can be
baseball.
golfers, it can be childhood celebrities, right?
Yeah.
Actresses. So it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, so they, they can have a contract of $50 million.
Mhm.
And the statistics show that 73% of pro athletes are completely bankrupt and broke within 6 years of being retired. And their retirement's young, but it's still retirement. And that's because they're rich. They're rich and they're buying a rich lifestyle and they look rich at the time. So that's what riches is. And riches looks, that's what we flaunt. We flaunt our riches.
Mhm.
And so we can say that person's rich because we can see the car they drive. We can see the
Mhm.
watch that they're wearing, so on and so forth. So that's riches. Now, wealth is something different. And what's important is because what we want is wealth. We may or may not want riches. We might want riches if we want to show it all off, and that makes us feel a certain way. But really, what we want, I think most of us would exchange wealth for riches. And wealth means this is what we call net worth. And wealth is private. We can't see people's net worth. We can see it maybe if they flaunt it, but net worth is what shows up on a personal balance sheet. What shows up on our financial statements. What shows up on our the things that we get from our financial advisor, all those statements. And that's called net worth, and that's wealth. And wealth means we have this asset value. We have all these what's called assets, and these assets have a value, and those assets ultimately create cash flow that I'm going to talk about in a minute. But that's private. Nobody sees that. So if I'm driving a fancy car and doing all the certain things, you might say, hey, Krisstina, that Krisstina chick, she's rich. Or you might look at me, let's say the way I look today, and I drive a decent car, the different things, but but I don't care about bags and, it basically has no clothes in it and all the things, but that's irrelevant. The thing is, you would have no idea how wealthy I am, especially if I'm not showing it off. Because wealth is hidden. And most people that have real wealth, unless you're uber wealthy and it's just kind of,
Part of the estate.
Yeah. But as far as wealth, like personal wealth that people have created for themselves, you can't see it. You wouldn't know who has it and who doesn't. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And it's to understand we want wealth. And
wealth brings peace of
rich.
mind. I just
Yes.
interrupted you, but wealth really brings peace of mind here. And that's a whole different, that's the feeling we're really looking for
Yes.
in our lives, is to feel that inner peace, that confidence, and that assurance that we're safe, we're taken care of.
So if we're rich and we're month to month, living a rich lifestyle, there's no peace of mind in that. It might feel good from an ego standpoint, but there's no peace of mind, because if we have a lifestyle that's costing us $1 million a year, we need to go create that $1 million again and again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
So it creates an anxiety because we have to keep recreating that. Just what Lisa said, wealth is peace of mind. Wealth is financial security. Wealth is financial safety. Wealth is, it means we have money out there that's stored, that is plenty and it's abundant and it's real and we have access to it. It's the opposite of month to month. So any other thing you want to contribute, Lisa?
No, I agree.
All right. So I'm just going to show a few slides here just to walk us through, to give you guys a visual. And again, what I'm talking about tonight are what I call the 4 principles, and principles is a boring word. I wish I could come up with a sizzle word, like something sizzly and something super sexy and exciting and juicy, but principles are boring. They're the fundamentals of the universe. They're laws. There's nothing sexy about them. There's no shiny penny to them, because they're permanent, they're forever, and they're always at work. And since we're so dopamine focused, and so, since novelty focused is our biology, we don't understand the fundamentals, or many times we're not studying the fundamentals, which these are the timeless principles that run the operations of the universe. And so I'm going to share the universal operations of money that can't be ignored. And when I could call them laws, I can call them truths, principles, whatever word works for you. But what this means is that we have to know these, we have to understand them, and we have to apply them if we're going to have financial peace of mind, financial security, financial safety, wealth, ultimately financial freedom and financial independence. And we go to financial safety, to financial security, to financial success, to financial independence over time. But we feel more safe and secure over as the money, then the wealth grows, you know, year over year, decade over decade. All right, so, and these four things, as simple as they sound, very few people know them because they're not taught in school. If we learned these things in middle school, high school, or at the very minimum college, very few of us would have money problems. But because this is what we need to apply, but we can't just know them, we have to apply them. So they seem pretty simple on the surface, you know, the iceberg that on the surface here, they seem pretty, I mean, pretty obvious almost. But of course, there's a lot of layers underneath, but they all funnel into these four things. So these are the four principles. Now, these, again, these principles, we want to match up with our mindset and our relationship with money. So these principles are going to create wealth, but it doesn't mean it can create financial security in a way, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to create financial happiness, because that's a mindset issue. All right, so the first one is you must know your numbers. And this is irrelevant if we like numbers, if we hate numbers, if we like math, we hate math, if it means we love money, we hate money, it doesn't matter. But we have to know our numbers. And these are our money numbers. In business, we have something called KPIs, key performance indicators. And if you're going to run a successful business, especially if you want $1 million business or even a $500,000 business, you have to know what's called these KPIs. You have to know these key performance indicators. You have to know what's the goal and vision of the business. What are these indicators that I can, the goals that I set, and then I can track and keep track of these. So key performance indicator is revenue on a month-to-month basis. But it's also how many leads do I need to generate? What's my conversion ratios? What are my open rates? I mean, all these different key performance indicators. And I teach a lot of entrepreneurs, and a lot of entrepreneurs like, I don't want to do the numbers. I just want to go out there and be the creator. I just want to be on social media, or I just want to speak, or I just want to do these things. It's like, all right, then get out of business, because business requires us to look at these numbers. It's called the KPIs. Now, the thing with money is that it's the same thing, is that the mindset that I want you to be in is that I am the CFO of my life. I am the CFO of my life. And as the CFO of my life, that means I'm in charge of the money, to grow the money, to create financial independence, to create safety, security, peace of mind. And that's my job. And it's a very important job because money matters. Money matters according to quality of life. And so I'm going to own this CFO role of my life. And again, it's pretty simple. I'm going to break it down for you. And as a CFO of my life, that means really managing the money of my financial household, I need to know a few numbers. So this is just it. Now, the most important, I'm going to go through these four very quickly, and then I'll drill down a little bit and open up questions. So that's the first one, is just understanding that there are numbers we have to know, and there's no excuse for this going to get us off the hook for not taking the time to get to know these numbers and embody them and put them into play. All right.
Krisstina.
Yes.
This is a big one for entrepreneurs. And somehow the mindset is, it's complicated. That I just want to do my business. It's like there's some guilt that, or this heaviness with the numbers, or maybe they weren't good in school with math, with numbers. So they think they just can't do it. And maybe they don't understand KPI or how it works. But, it can become so ingrained within you that you'll wonder why you didn't do it more often.
Yeah, I was just listening to a podcast, and his name's James Wedmore, and I think it's the Business by Design podcast. And I'm always listening to podcasts because I'm trying to get better at business and learning from people that do better business than I do. And he was they just did, I think, a $10 million launch for their last, it's called Business by Design. And I think it was even more, but but they launched they earned $10 million over a week, launching this program. So, I'm curious, like, how the hell did he do that? Like, that's hard to do. I've never even come close to anything like that.
No.
And so, but he and his partner, they did this podcast and they broke it down as to, it's kind of step by step how they had this $10 million launch. And no bullshit. Like there's no hyperbole in James. That's why I really like him. He's not just touting false things and inflated numbers. But when they really started breaking this down, what became very obvious is they're testing everything. I mean, they know, again, their open rates, their landing pages, the conversions, their A/B testing everything. And I mean, I was in awe of how well he knows his numbers, and his right-hand person does too. And they're testing everything. And I'm like, no, what? I'm not playing at that level. I'm not testing my numbers. I'm not tracking things like that. But it's just this, I mean, it's not like a big aha moment, but it's this moment, like, am I willing to do that amount of work and that amount of tracking if I want a $10 million business? And it's like, if I want a $10 million business, I have to sign up for that. I have to sign up for that level of business, right?
Yeah.
So again, it's just knowing that when we're serious about playing the game of business or serious about playing the game of life where finances matter, our level of seriousness is going to turn into a certain number of zeros.
It sure is. But what if we just start with, look at your bank account every once in a while, know what your balance is. How much money do you have an accountant helping you? And what are you bringing in? And how much are you spending a month with expenses, right? It's just knowing where your money goes.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's one of the principles.
Yeah.
So we'll talk more about that. The second principle is you must create a surplus. And again, I'm going to drill down to each of these, but I'm just going to give you the 4 up front. And this is a little bit what Lisa said, but this is a rule. And I say this all the time, sometimes I speak to big audiences and I ask a couple questions. I can't see everybody on the screen, so since I have my presentation up. But the first question I ask is, who here in this audience wants to be financially free? So raise your hand if you want to be financially free or financially independent. Yes.
On financial freedom.
So I can have 50 people in the room. I can have 300 in the room that I'm speaking to, and every hand goes up. So we all want to be financially free. It's that internal drive is the freedom. I talk to people every day. I do consults. I do money consults and money breakthrough calls, and that's part of what I do on a daily basis. And I ask everybody, like, why, like, what are you showing up to the call? I want financial freedom. I want to feel free. So it's a feeling of freedom. And so that's what we're all after. Then the second question I ask is, who wants to know the secret to being wealthy? Like, just the secret. It's super easy. So, right, all of us. So all the hands go up again. The secret to being wealthy is this simple: spend less than you make. Mic drop, right? It's not that profound, but it's really that simple. It's spend less than you make. The principle says you have to create a surplus.
Yeah.
And so what that means is that when let's say we bring in $150,000 to our household, between either we bring it in or between us and our partner, our spouse or our partner, we bring in $150,000 household income. So what that means is most of us, when we're month to month, what's happening is we have a lifestyle that costs $150,000. So there is no surplus. But the principle is we have to create a surplus, and then we have to know how much of a surplus, and we'll talk about that in a second. But there's these money maxims, if you will, like these money sayings. And the money saying here is that wealth is created in the margin. And that's what a margin is. Margins are the deltas. So it's the delta between what we make and what we spend. So that's principle number 2. Principle number 3 is you have to have a system. Why? Because to build wealth, we have to manage our money, and we have to manage it well. I mean, if we have a business and we even have great employees in the business, employees need to be managed. If we're going to be serious about business and we're going to grow a business and lead a business, and we're going to have other team members, if we're the CEO, leader, or owner of that business, we're going to have to manage the people to get the results we want. Otherwise, it will go haywire. No business owner hires a bunch of people and say, oh, just do what you want. You know, here's kind of the idea or the goal we're getting at, and here's the projects, or here's the to-dos, just go about it. And then I trust that it'll all be taken care of perfectly. Life doesn't work that way. People have to be managed according to the KPIs and according to the goals and according to the expectations of the business. And the business owner is the one that declares those and make those requests and make sure that everybody's managed. The bigger the business grows, you have directors and managers and all sorts of management to make sure.
Krisstina, how would this apply to just a single woman who's maybe in corporate America or works at, you know, downtown 7-Eleven? How does this apply to her at Principle 3?
Well, it's when we are responsible for outcomes, we have to manage things. Things have to be managed. They have to be ordered. They have to be taken care of. If we're a project planner, if we're an event planner, what is event planning? It means that, hey, we have this goal of this event, we have this timeline, we have this deadline of the event, and we have 10,000 different things that have to be managed and organized, and people that have to be talked to, and timeframes that have to be met. So anything where we have to create a result, we have to manage ourselves, but usually, you know, we have to manage others as well, because usually we're not working in a vacuum. You know, we have to communicate really well. We need to set expectations. We need to do all these things. So again, it's just a principle to understand that everything needs to be managed. Anytime we have a goal in mind, we have to manage everything that happens to ensure that that goal happens. Or
so would it be then that we manage, if we have a paycheck of $2,200 a month, would it be then dividing that paycheck? Is that what you mean by managing it as far as their money goes?
Yeah, so the principle is about managing things, to manage to outcomes. So money's no exception.
Okay.
Is that when we want to create wealth, when we want to create outcome, like the outcome, the results is more money, is that
Definitely.
surplus. It has to be managed. So if we're not managing our money and our money's a free for all, it's going to be free for all. It's going to be a party, just like employees that aren't managed. Even if we don't manage people, we can conceptually understand, or we're being managed within a big company. Like there's always a management structure. So money is the same thing. Money has to be managed. And today,
but does it have to be rigorous? Where you follow me? Because you talk to somebody who's never managed money, and then the word manage comes in, and it sounds, I think it can trigger childhood where if I don't have it, whatever I have, I better spend because I'm not going to have it. You with me? So that's why I'm trying to dial it down into what does let's break it down, right? Does it mean that it's taking, you know, if you bring in a paycheck of $800 every 2 weeks or a week, that it means you take maybe $80 and you put it away in a savings account. And that's how you start building some wealth by just taking a percentage. It could be $25 is how you're managing that.
Yeah,
is that
I'm going to drill down on all this, like what all these
okay.
So I'm
okay.
just doing kind of the overview of the 4 principles, but the principle is it has to be managed. And sometimes maybe we do have a visceral reaction to the word management, but the idea is if we can identify those and just be like, all right, maybe I'm having a reaction to this, but if this is the principle, let me just sit with it. Let me learn more. But it doesn't mean it has to be difficult or rigorous. It just means it has to be managed.
Perfect.
Now, back in the day, you know, money was much easier to manage. There were no real credit cards, and we had money in a checking account. We had a checkbook, and in the back of the checks there were registers. You know, so
right.
but then managing money was easier, but it had to be managed because we didn't have credit cards. I remember when I was putting myself through college, and I had that checkbook. You know, and you get the fancy covers on the checkbook and the different things. And I mean, I'd have to track every single expense on my checkbook because I was on scholarship and grants, and there was couldn't go to my parents for money. So if I went $10 over, then there was all those, the overage fees and different things.
Right.
But it was easy to manage because I didn't have any credit cards. It was a checkbook and I could write it every time. but it's even important. It's a principle. It's always important. But today, now we need more robust systems to do this. Why? Because we have Venmo, we have Apple Pay, we have Google,
Yeah.
we have Amazon, we have our checkbook, we have our credit cards, we have our debit cards. We have so many different forms
We have
of
Venmo.
payments going out that it's impossible today to grow wealth. It is literally impossible to create wealth if we don't have a financial management system that allows us to track our money, because we have to track it. So that's just part of the reality, like the tough reality of like, oh shit, all right, whether I like it or not, this thing has to be managed. But again, it's not difficult, it's not rigorous, it's just something that's a requirement.
Okay.
All right, and then the fourth one here is that money has to be put to work. We go to work for money one way or another. So that's called working income, whether we're W-2 or whether we're a business owner, we go to work for money. And what that means is that and this is really important, that, this is part of even our self-worth piece and the way we self-value. But it's really important to know that is to accept and own how amazing each one of us really is. Every one of you are amazing humans. You are remarkable. I mean, and Lisa, you too, and me too. Why? Because we're showing up right here, right now, with an abundance of knowledge. We've gone to school, we've studied, we've taken workshops, we're doing shit like this, right? We have learned certain skill sets and we create certain value. And whether it's in a business or whether we do it, at a corporation or job, what we do is we invest in ourselves through learning and acquiring knowledge and skills that we go offer that out to the world somehow through business, through, our work, our jobs. And that work is so valuable that we get compensated as a reward back for what we're contributing out to the world one way or another. So for us to honor ourselves, like, wow. And then when we honor ourselves, we can honor our money. So versus like, oh, shoot, there's not enough money coming in, got to pay the bills. We're not honoring, whether that's true or not. What precedes that is to understand, like, wow, I create so much value in the world that money comes back to me.
Right.
And as long as money's coming back to us in some form or fashion, we can always increase our value and increase more money that comes in. We can always increase our skill set. We're totally in control of that. Sometimes we just have to have breakthrough mindset and some different stuff, but fundamentally, we can just go be more valuable, create more value. And the money coming in is like a thank you to ourselves. It's a thank you to me that says, Krisstina, girlfriend, you are so remarkable that the value you put out in the world based on how you've invested in your knowledge and skills, people are paying you for that. Right. Good job, girlfriend. So
it's a great feeling.
It's a great feeling. And so the more we value ourselves and value the value, the more abundance we're pulling in. And it's abundance in the mindset, like I am worthy of this and I'm bringing it in. My skill set matters and I help people and I change lives and I make companies more money and I manage people and I do a great job and I come with a great attitude and I make the world a better place, and you just call more in and call more in. But this is the abundance piece when we're receiving the money. Again, it comes from this love of an appreciation of ourselves. And that's recognized through the energies that are transferred. But then that's how we attract more money. So that's part of the abundance mindset. But practically, it's being very loving and kind and appreciative and grateful for all the money to ourselves and to the money for coming in. So that's our working income. Now, that's the money we bring in for that exchange. Then there's this other side of money. And this is the other side of money that's missing. A lot of times we have a lot of work to do there to create that abundance and enough money that's coming in. But the other piece is that money loves to do the same thing, but we have to put our money to work so our money creates more money. And I'm going to talk about that. And that's creating multiple streams of income. And that's how we get wealthy. We get wealthy through number 4 because our money performs and our money works for us and our money creates a paycheck, not just our bodies. So these are the 4 principles. I'm going to drill down to each of these a little bit, but any questions or any thoughts or confusions before I drill down a little bit?
Krisstina, I have two really good questions by Clarenzia. Can I ask those?
Yes, please.
The first is, I'm sure this is a question everybody and that is, where should we start?
Okay. I love that. What's the second one? That's the perfect lead-in question.
Here's another great one. How much do we need to start to build wealth? How much money do we need to start to build wealth?
Those are almost like planted questions. So those are such great questions because they're
Yeah,
planting me to say what I'm going to talk about next. All right, so where to start and how much does it take? So principle one, step one is where to start is you have to know what we call your wealth numbers. And where to start is something that's called knowing how much is enough. And this is the exact place to start. Now, Lisa, I think we sent to you. If not, we'll make sure you get it. I have a how much is enough workbook that we're going to share with you guys. So,
Beth, if you have it, drop it in.
yeah, there's a link and just and the link does, okay, Brad will put that in their link. And so
Okay.
as a starting place, I really encourage all of you, when we get off the call tonight or sometime tomorrow or this weekend, do this workbook. It's so illuminating and eye-opening, but it's like, again, if I could put this on a billboard, I'd say, fill out this workbook. It's the starting place. It's the step one to start building wealth. And it's going to ask you some numbers. And these, when I say know your numbers, these are the numbers that you need to know. And it's very likely that you're not going to know these numbers off the top of your head. You're going to have to sit down and maybe get a calculator, maybe look around a little bit. But if these principles are true, and I claim that they are, then if we want to build wealth, here's the starting place. And it's something we'll want to sit down and take the time to fill in the blanks of this workbook. And this workbook's like 8 pages. Like it's the work that it's the kind of the spine, if you will, the infrastructure spine that I use in my money school. This is the work. So it's what it's the workbook that I use with my private students, and we'll share it with you. But that's a great question. That's a starting place. So we have to discover our wealth numbers. When we talk about how much money is enough, we're talking about this is the destination. It's the goal, the financial goal. Most of us don't have a destination. We don't have a real financial goal. We haven't spent time to really sit down and ask these questions of ourselves. And we all know, like, if we don't know where we're going, we're never going to get there, you know? So that's it. It's in the work. I'm not going to spend too much time here because the workbook is going to be your guide on this. But ultimately, you want to know how much net worth is enough to be financially free, to one day retire or create financial independence. You need to know how much money it costs to live your current lifestyle. You need to know what we call your gaps are, what your net worth gap is. You need to know what your income gap is. Very simple metrics, these kind of money KPIs, if you will, to discover for yourself. And that workbook, again, is going to guide you through knowing the exact numbers you need to know as the starting place. So the exercise here, and this is something to think about. And the exercise I call is, how wealthy are you? And I'll go through this very quickly. If you want to put it in the chat, great. If you want to be vulnerable and put it in there. But again, this is something we want to know. How wealthy am I today? Because again, we're talking about wealth here. So how wealthy I am today, this is how you calculate it. Add up, just kind of think, take 60 seconds and think, how much money, or what we call assets, what do you have that you could sell? So that's going to be ultimately the number we're going to get to. But part of the exercise is the rule is today, starting right now, what is September 27th at almost 7 p.m. Mountain Time. So the rule is I'm waving this wand, and all of a sudden you and your family cannot go to work to earn any more working income. It's just the spell is taken over. So you cannot go to work and collect a paycheck. You can't go to your business and make any money. So the question is, how long could you last? That's what wealth is. So wealth answers the question of how long could you last? How long could you pay all of your bills if you had forced retirement today? The spell
Great
taken out of you
question.
couldn't. So that's the thing. So we want to know what that number is. So how you calculate that is add up all of the money that you have has stored value. And it could be money that's in a checking account, money that's in a savings account, money that's invested in a retirement plan, money that is in real estate, money that is maybe you have some antiques you could sell,
Mhm.
maybe a car, but really add up everything. And if you had to sell it, how much money would it be? And so the other kind of part of this is you probably don't want to move houses. So you don't want to, you want to still be able to afford your mortgage bill. So you wouldn't sell your house. And so you're not going to touch the money in your house.
Right.
You're probably still going to want a car. So you're not going to sell your car. And you're probably going to want, a few other things. So that's just part of the rules. So just go ahead and do a simple calculation. How long could you last? Could you last 3 months? Could you last a year? Could you last 3 years? Basically you just divide all the money that has the value divided. Oh, you need to know how much money it costs to live your life every single month. So let's just say you had $250,000 that's money out there, and your lifestyle cost $10,000 a month. That means you have 25 months before the money runs out. And then the question is, what happens on month 26 if you can't go to work? So that's what wealth is. How wealthy you are is basically how many months you could go and still cover the cost of your lifestyle if you didn't go to work. Because wealth is that money sitting aside that's the money you have that's non-working income. Now, what financial freedom is means the money will never run out. It'll be there till you die. So these are numbers we want to know. So that's what financial freedom is. Financial freedom is the right-hand side. I call it this money spectrum. And on the spectrum, the right-hand side means financial freedom, meaning there's enough money there, what we call assets, that pays for the cost of my bills that it will never run out. So let's say that I have $2 million there, and I have $2 million sitting in income producing assets, and it covers my cost of my lifestyle of $120,000 a year, and I will never run out of money. That's financial freedom. So that's what peace of mind and safety and security is. It means that if something happened to me, I don't have to worry about going to work every day because I have money out there that covers the cost of my lifestyle. Now, it takes a while to get to that place of financial freedom, and that's okay, but that's the goal and the destination. The goal and the destination is financial freedom, and to know, I want to be a millionaire. I want net worth of $1 million, let's say $1 million or $2 million, whatever that number is. And that's what that's my goal. That's my destination. That's my vision, my financial vision of my household. And I'm never taking my eye off of that, because that's full freedom and peace of mind. Because I've already told Krisstina that I want financial freedom, and I'm going to commit to that. Now, the more months that we have that things could cover until we get to financial freedom, the more safe we feel. Meaning if we could last 2 months, how much anxiety would that be if tomorrow we couldn't go to work and we knew we only had 2 months? That's a lot of anxiety. And subconsciously, deep down, whether we're paying attention to this or not, that's what we call month to month. That's where a majority of our population is month to month, regardless of how much income. And so that's all that financial anxiety, financial tension, financial conflict in marriages, so on and so forth. It's in the month to month. And that's where people get stuck. So that's the thing. But now if we had 2 years worth and we lost our job or something happened, I had an illness. I got really sick about half a dozen years ago. And I didn't anticipate being sick. I thought I was healthy. I mean, I didn't think I was going to be in bed for 12 months and not be able to get out of bed. It was just one day I was fine. The next day I wasn't. And so I couldn't go to work anymore. I was young. Again, I didn't plan on being taken out of the income game, but for 12 months, I couldn't work. And so there was no money that came in. So we never know when that time might happen.
Yeah.
But that's what that peace of mind is. The wealthier we are, meaning the more months that we have, the more safe and financially secure we feel.
Mhm.
All right, so these are the numbers. Go through these. Just, take a picture of this if you want to, because we have limited time. So I'm not going to go too deep in them, but I've already discussed them, that these, when we're asking where to start, these are the numbers we need to know. You need to know, what is your wealth number, which is your financial freedom number. Is it $1 million of net worth? I always say start with $1 million. Once you hit your first million, you can hit 2, 3, 4, 5 very quickly. It's that first million that has to be the target. So I say start there, make the goal of, I'm going to be a net worth millionaire. That's the first goal. The second one is, you need to know how wealthy you are now, like what we just talked about. That's the second number you need to know. You need to know your annual income, how much money you make on an annual basis, and you need to know what your annual expenses are. Again, the workbook is going to guide you on all this, so don't worry too much about it. But these are numbers we have to sit down and calculate, and they're pretty easy to come up with. All right, so this step number 2 is to help us with principle number 2. And principle number 2 is what? Do you guys remember? Surplus margin. So principle number 2 is you have to create a surplus. And I say it, getting off the month-to-month hamster wheel. So doing this surplus, I call it interrupting Parkinson's law. And Parkinson's law of money says this, and this is really important. Again, this is a law. It's like the commandments written in stone. And it says expenses will always rise to match income.
Yeah.
So this is the thing that, we can be and, grow up in poverty and, not have any money. And then we can get a $15 million contract and be a pro athlete. And how easy do you think it is to eat up $15 million? It can go from zero to not having anything to having a $15 million lifestyle just like that. In fact, it's going to happen. That's why athletes are bankrupt and broke within, half a dozen years of retirement. So it's just, we believe that if I make more money, then that's going to be the answer to all my money problems, but it's wrong. Why? Because it's called expense creep. That's what Parkinson's law is. And it says what was once a luxury becomes a necessity. Mm-hmm. So that means if we had banner years, I see this in real estate, like all these real estate agents, I work with a lot of real estate agents, and banner, like the last handful of years have been banner years. And I've been wanting to just share with them, don't spend it all. Don't spend it all. Parkinson's law, it's not going to last forever. And they had these radically expensive lifestyles. I was watching it right in front of them. And now real estate is completely changed. And now they're stressed out and they're trying to figure out what to do. And why? Because when they started making more money, all their lifestyle went up. But now they had the really expensive cars and they spent all that money. Do you think they want to reduce the cost of their lifestyle and get rid of those luxuries and go down to where they were before the money started, just amplifying? No. So we don't want to go down in lifestyle when our income goes down. We feel entitled to it. So again, that's why this Parkinson's law is so important. And we don't want to be a statistic, which is Parkinson's law. So that's what crushes our wealth, is this thing called Parkinson's law. And it's so automatic that it's why, in business, I teach business people all the time, and they're so focused on more sales and more sales and more sales. And I'm like, more sales is not going to make you wealthy. More sales is just going to keep you in the same month to month. But the more money you make in the Parkinson's law situation, the more stressful life is. So it's just to understand that why we don't have a surplus, create a surplus every month, is because Parkinson's law is in effect. And it's so insidious and invisible that we don't even know it's happening, because it's just so easy to just buy more stuff or just increase the cost of our lifestyle. As
Krisstina, what I find in this time period is people become very self-conscious of it. So they are, like, in one aspect, they flaunt it, but in another aspect, they also give it.
Mhm.
So they are more apt to be the one that picks up the dinner ticket all the time. They're the ones that are loaning everybody money, or things like that, buying expensive gifts for birthdays. And it's like, because they have it, they should share it. That's a big mindset in this category. Because I have it, I need to give it. Mhm.
Yeah, in fact, Brad, what was the name of the woman? She just joined our Curbs program, and you were talking to her last night. But so she moved from Mexico. She and her family moved from Mexico, and they did okay in Mexico, but then they moved to the US, and they started doing really well in the US and making a lot more money than they were making in Mexico. And she's taking my program. She said, Krisstina, I don't understand. Like, we came to the US to change our lives, but now we're in debt. We have credit card debt. My husband and I fight all the time about money. We, and I said, well, what do you think part of it? And she's like, well, the kids have a debit card. I just want to give my kids everything, and they have a card, and, they just think we have so much money, so they spend it on whatever they want. And I think I should be able to give that to them because we're making more money than we ever have. So exactly what you were just saying. But she's so stressed
Very
out because
common.
they just keep getting in more debt, and they're making more money, but they didn't have any debt in Mexico.
Right.
And now, they have tens of $1,000s of debt, and, 10x what they were making.
All right. Thank you for letting me interject there. All right, let's go to 3.
All right, so let's see. So now we're going to jump to the principle number 3 is you have to have a system and process for managing your money. And the thing is that we get in this mindset that I don't have enough money, so I don't need to manage it because there's never enough.
Right.
Mindset.
What comes in goes out. So
Yeah,
what's the
exactly.
difference?
What's the difference? So that's on one side of the spectrum. Then there's the other side that, I'm making so much money, I don't need to track it all the time because, who wants to nickel and dime everything? And so we go from one to the other, and we never take on this process of managing our money.
Right.
But the reason we have to manage it is because of principle number 2, we have to create a surplus and Parkinson's law. So if we're not managing our money, Parkinson's law is going to take effect. So how we manage it is how we keep ourselves from becoming a victim to Parkinson's law. And the idea, though, the mindset is that we want to manage our money. It's like we want to spend time with it. Like we want to spend time with our spouse. Like we want to spend time with our kids. Like we
want it to become a friend.
Exactly. So we want, if we're avoiding it right now, the exercise or the action is to change the relationship and just say, today's the day I want to develop a really loving, healthy, kind, grateful, attentive relationship with my money. And it's just a decision. It's that simple.
Absolutely.
And it's required. But the more we can appreciate our money and appreciate every dollar that comes in versus we get stuck in this place like there's never enough, there's never enough, there's never enough. And it becomes a habit. So that's scarcity. We're focused on what we don't have as opposed to being grateful for what we do have. So we can change that to being grateful. Part of the management, like I said earlier, is saying, wow, maybe it's not the money I want to come in yet, but I still need to be grateful for all the money that comes in. Wow, I have a roof over my head. Wow, there's this magic called electricity. Whoa, I'm on this computer and there's this called internet. And somehow I create enough abundance in my life that affords to pay for all these things.
Yeah.
And so there's that gratitude that's so important. And so we can develop that gratitude with our money and that desire to tell it we're grateful through spending time with it and talking to it in a positive way. And then saying, thank you so much for all the things around me right now, for the car that I get to drive, for the roof over my head, for the food on the table. And I'm going to call in more. I'm going to call in more. I'm going to increase my value and more gratitude. And I'm going to put you to work my money so that you can help me grow at the same time. And that's relationship creates not just the metaphysical abundance, but the practical, real abundance in that energy that money just starts to compound and grow and falls out of the sky. And, I think the universe, does the universe want to shower people with money that are really responsible and grateful and spending time with it and are prudent in doing these things?
Heck,
Or is
yes.
it just wasteful and just like, it's a free for all?
No. Heck, yes. The universe wants to give us more. There's always abundance. And like just I have a saying here, Krisstina, that the high vibration of money is love. And money isn't any different than the high vibration of love. And we can live in that vibration without being greedy, without being selfish and evil, but have it just become a part of us. It's
100%.
all and love is gratitude, and it's incorporated in it.
Yeah, and the talk frequency, like love and gratitude.
Absolutely.
Frequencies. And so
Absolutely.
that's it, like that's how we love our money. It's not
Mhm.
loving, it's loving our money in a way of gratitude
Yeah.
and appreciation. And it's not just grateful for the money, it's grateful for ourselves that, like I said, puts ourselves out into the world that exchanges just for this thing called currency. So the
Right.
less we can get over some of the stigma of this thing and just call it in. Again, this energy calls in more and calls in more, and that mindset, and the more you see it working, the more you want to be in it. But
Mhm.
love, if we use the word love, we can tell our kids we love them. And some people, let's say, have a lot of money and they say they love their kids, but they're never around.
They're never present with them.
They're never present with them. And maybe the parents even buying them a bunch of stuff, but the kid yearns for being loved. The kid yearns for time and attention and praise and gratitude. And I grew up with absentee parents, and as an adult, I just craved that. I craved wanting to feel loved, because I didn't know
Mhm.
that as a child, because that's all we want. We want that feeling of love through attention, appreciation.
Absolutely.
And so money's the same thing. The high vibration is not, but the parent could say, I love you all the time, but the kid doesn't feel love because the parent's never present. They're off somewhere else. So we can say we love money or want to love money, but it's through the action of it.
Okay.
Money feels the love the more time we spend in it. And again, just through these practices. So under the money management system, this is what Lisa was saying today. It's like, how is that I teach a very specific methodology. And this is what I teach, with my students in our money school. And it's a very prescriptive way to manage money so that we can make sure we have plenty of money that takes care of all of the things we want in life. And it's very easy to do. But again, it's part of the management system. So I'm going to share with that very quickly what this is, and I can answer more questions about it. And Lisa and I will talk at the end a little bit about my money school if you're interested, but this is what we do in the money school is we build this financial system. And like I say here, if we're going to build wealth, we want to track every dollar. We want to look at every dollar of income and every dollar of expenses, and we track it. That's part of the KPIs is the tracking. And when you're in a wealth, when you're either in an income game or a wealth game. Income game, you're just focused on making income. Wealth game, it's a radically different game. You're concerned about hitting your wealth number. And income is one of the stepping stones to creating wealth, but it's not the be all end all. The be all end all is the wealth, not the higher income. So what this is how the system works is that you have your money has 5 categories. And so the framework that I teach is called CURBS, CURBS, and it's a framework. And the framework is the system, it's the financial system. So that's what I'm going to go over real quickly. So C for CURB stands for categorize. And what that means, so your money needs, there's 5 different categories of money. And your money, again, this is the most efficient, productive, high velocity way to grow your money. It's a very effective and efficient system. So your money has 5 categories, and you think about it like you give your money 5 roles. Like if you had a business, you wouldn't have 5 employees all doing the same thing. Same thing with the money. Your money needs 5 roles. The first one is income. That's the category number 1 is your income. The second category is taxes. If assuming you're non-W2, you have this category of money called taxes. Category number 3 is investments. Category number 4 are lifestyle expenses, like your bills. And category number 5 is savings. So these are 5 categories of money. And what I mean is each one of these categories of money has a different job. So we separate it. So what the problem where most of us are going wrong, we're putting all of our income into one bank account, into our checking account, and then we pay all of our bills out of that. And we're hoping maybe there's some money left over. And if there's money left over one day, then we'll go do that investing thing or something like that, or saving or investing that thing. So the thing is we want to break that. So how we do that is we create these 5 different categories. Now,
Can we write them out, or can Brad put them in the chat?
Yeah, let me see. Brad probably, I'll put those in the chat. So I'll say them again.
Are we still on this same slide, Krisstina?
Yeah, I'm going
Okay.
deeper into the slide.
Okay.
But the first one is income. Category number 1 is income. Category number 2 is taxes.
Yeah.
Category number 3 is investments. Category number 4 are your lifestyle expenses, like your expenses. And category number 5 is savings. So those are the 5 categories. You, as part of the system, is uncover. So what we do in the CURBS program is that you uncover. So part of this is you can look at, let's look at the last 90 days of all of your money, of all your income and expenses. And you look at 90 days worth of expenses. And you break them up in all of these 5 categories. And see and uncover where all of your money's going. So by doing this exercise, you're going to start to notice. Now, the rule is that money has these 5 jobs. And if it's not doing these 5 jobs, then our money's not growing, or it's not growing as fast as it should be. It's not creating that surplus. So that's what uncover is. Now, R stands for ratio. And this is what I call the millionaire formula. And that means there's a percentage based on each of these categories, how much money we put into each category. I'll explain this in a second, but that's ratio, meaning there's a percentage that we should be spending out of each of these categories. And B stands for buckets, and buckets means bank accounts. So bank accounts for all these different categories. How we defeat Parkinson's law is when all the money comes into our bank account. What we do when we're managing our money is we do what's called moving our money. We're sweeping it. So let's say $10,000 comes into our bank account. So $10,000 comes into the category of income. So that's $10,000. Now I teach something called the 20-80-20, but what that is means if we're a business owner, we need to take taxes if we don't take those out of our business. Why is there a tax bucket? Tax bucket's only for non-W2. I created a tax bucket because I started in real estate and I was Parkinson's law. I made a bunch of money and I spent all my money, including the tax money. So we can only spend after tax money. And I learned the hard way after having the IRS after me and having tax liens. And if anybody's had the IRS after them, it's not a fun experience. So I realized I need a tax bucket. That means that money, I don't get to keep all $10,000. Uncle Sam is going to keep, let's say, $2,000 of that. So I put $10,000 in my account. I take $2,000 out and I move it out and I put it into the tax bucket. Now, the third bucket is the investment bucket. So the investment bucket means that this is the money that I'm going to, that's surplus. So if that surplus now that I need to create each month is $2,000 a month, that's money. I put $10,000 in. I took $10,000 out to put in the taxes, and I put $2,000 out. I took $2,000 out and I put it in my investment bucket. And each month, let's say I get $10,000 each month. I do this every month. Then what I have left over is I have $6,000 left over, $10,000 income, $2,000 taxes, $2,000 for the investments. So I have $6,000 left over. That's what we call our spending cash. That's what we can now spend, but we don't want to spend all of that. Why? So what I teach is, again, this will all be in the booklet, but I teach 80% of what's left over, which is $4,800. That's the amount that we get to spend on our bills each month. And 20% of leftover, which is $1,200, that goes into what we call the savings buckets. because even though we made 10,000, we took 4,000 out for taxes and investments, we have 6,000 left over. We still can't spend all the 6,000 on our lifestyle. That means on our bills, between our mortgage and our car payment and our electricity and our groceries and our clothing and our gas and our insurance and yada, yada, yada. We only want to spend like 4,800 of it. The 1,200, the remainder of that 6,000, we need to shave and set aside. And I call it 2 additional, these are called your savings buckets. And the savings buckets, the first savings bucket is what we call your rainy day bucket. We've all heard this, but we have to have money set aside for rainy day. Your rainy day bucket is that first safeguard. It's that first piece of financial security. Because part of the stress when we're month to month and we don't have maybe 6 months of rainy day expenses sitting there, but when you have 6 months of just rainy day expenses cash sitting there, you can breathe. If something happens and something happens and you don't make income for a month or get laid off or something happens, you have that cush fund. Mm-hmm. And that's 6 months of wealth sitting right there. So anything wealth-wise is that peace of mind money. So we need a savings bucket for a rainy day, and we need a savings bucket for what I call dreams. And that's those big expenses like remodeling the kitchen or going on a vacation or going on a shopping spree for a new wardrobe, whatever it is. But those are monies that need to be saved because they're big purchases that we're going to purchase in the future. Yeah. So all of that is called my CURBS methodology. This is what we learn in my school in the program. And then we use something called QuickBooks that's a chart of accounts and allows us to easily track and manage all of our money. So you need a system, some type of financial system. Again, these things might sound overwhelming or intimidating, when I'm speaking to them like this. But when you follow this in a very step-by-step and you're just building this as you go along, it's actually very simple. And all of these tools now make managing your money really easy, but you're managing money according to your KPIs that you've established through step 1 and step 2. So that's what we're doing is we're creating these buckets of money. And over time right now, you start to see these buckets grow by doing this methodology and this practice. And as you could be month to month for years and years and years. And by employing this practice, you'll start to see money grow in these buckets and you start to feel better. Then all of a sudden you have a rainy day bucket and something goes wrong and you're like, there's no stress. I have the money sitting aside.
It's a great feeling.
This is a method that I still use today. I teach this method and I can tell you story after story after story of students going through. They send reports all the time. They're like, Krisstina, I just have to tell you that, after going through curbs and having my rainy day bucket, I got an fender bender and there was a $2,000 deductible. And normally my husband and I would have thought about it and wondering where the money was going to come from. And these were high income earners. Everybody's earning over $100,000 for the most part. So it's not like, lack of money. It's just it's the Parkinson's law. And they'll say no stress in the rainy day bucket, one and done. It's like, I can't even believe how this has changed my life is that I don't worry about money anymore because all my buckets are growing. All right, so step 4, and then we'll answer it up. We'll just answer any questions and close this up. And step 4 is principle 4, meaning we have to put our money to work. And this is where all roads lead to Rome. This is everything in principle 1, 2, or 3 is so that we have enough money that we can put our money to work. And this is putting that surplus to work. So in our case, in our example, we do $2,000 a month or say $24,000 a year. And this is money that we've categorized and we've earmarked and we've set aside that this group of money, those $24,000, if you thought of, dollar bills stacked up on top of each other, or however that is, but it's a bucket that has $24,000 in it. We take this bucket and that money is reserved to put in some type of vehicle that money will start growing on itself and called compound interest. And that's the moral of the story. So this is what we call wealth is reflected on our balance sheet. And we invest our surplus to buy assets and build a portfolio. And we understand compound interest to multiply our money. There's something called the rule of 72. Again, I don't want to overload you guys too much. This is all stuff I cover in my program over 12 weeks. And so I'm just giving the highlights, but it's just to understand that what the rule of 72 says is that it tells you in how many years you will double your money. So we take the number 72, you divide it by an interest rate. So let's just say, take 72 and say you invest your money where it gets a 10% interest rate. That means your money is going to double every 7.2 years. So that's what we want it to do, because that thing called compound interest. And without understanding it or going into details, all you have to know is that my money will double every 7.2 years. So if it starts with 50,000, it can double to 100,000 in 7.2, it can double to 200,000, doubles to 400,000, doubles to 800,000, doubles to 1.6 million, doubles to 3.4 million. And we want to get our money doubling. But if we never put the money aside, it's never going to do that. And again, that's what our wealth is. So to sum us up here, to talk about balance sheet, this is so important to understand. And
Hey, Krisstina,
yeah.
I think we need to pause here, okay? Because you're so good with money and the conversation with money rolls so naturally for you. For someone who isn't comfortable with money, you've delivered a lot of content. Let's take a breath before this next piece, okay? And give people a chance to say, what's on your mind? What's coming up for you right now as Kristina's giving these different points. Brad, what do you read in the chat? Like, put it out there, everyone, because you've been looking at a lot of slide content, hearing Krisstina, and if you're in money scarcity right now, you might be feeling fear. You might be feeling like, how do I do all of these things? And
great pause, Lisa. And I can tell you're so connected to your audience. You know, we talked earlier about your intuition, and it shows. I had a few people one-off with me and say they feel a little overwhelmed or a little overloaded right now. And I think it has to do with kind of what you named. And that is a little of the anxiety that goes with money. And so thanks for stamping that. Krisstina, do you want to address that? Like, if they're feeling,
you want to come full screen?
Right,
you want to just remove the slides for a minute and just bring us up, and let's talk money here with them. Yeah. And I'm really eager let's address the overwhelm. What do you say to that, Krisstina? If somebody joins your program and they're just feeling so overwhelmed, how do you unwind that?
Yeah, so the thing is in 90 minutes, not quite 90 minutes, I basically taught you everything you need to know about money.
Wow.
So it's okay to feel overwhelmed because I covered a lot of material, but that's the truth. The truth is, in 90 minutes, you do these 4 things, it will change your life. We're not taught, again, 90 minutes. Now, what I do is I take the last 90 minutes and we break it up into 12 weeks. And week after week, we're taking each one of these. So there is no overwhelm. It's these baby steps, these bite-sized pieces. But again, it starts with these principles. And now we're doing everything I just talked about in building in 12 weeks versus 90 minutes. So obviously we crunched it. But what's important is if we can leave this conversation with, okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed. But if that's all I need to know about money to change my financial situation and build wealth, I can do that. None of this is rocket science.
Doable.
It's totally doable. 90 minutes? Yeah, a lot of crunch. But I have to be able to cover this so you can get the big picture. I didn't leave anything out. That's it. That's it.
Like, just let that land. Breathe that in, that's doable. And it's starting one thing at a time. It's just one thing at a time. It might be you start with putting some money away every month, right? Setting that savings account up for that rainy day, and the savings account, setting those up. But Krisstina will guide you on all of that. And just talk through, Krisstina, because I know people that have done your program, all right? And I know how it's changed their life. I know how they feel more comfortable with their money now. I know that it set them up for prosperity, and they follow it to this day. So what does that look like? Just in your words.
Yeah, so there's like the universe is made of structure, and I mean, the universe is profound, right? It's so
Right.
big that we can't understand it. It's so
Right.
intelligent and complex. So what we do as humans is we create frameworks, we create models, we create systems that help us organize information or organize our understanding so that we can exist. The models work. Maybe we don't understand why they work necessarily, but that's why we have all these models. It's because the models work that are in alignment with universal laws like gravity or whatever. So money's no exception. And that's what I teach is specific framework, that Curbs framework, where we break down each of these pieces that allows us to spend time with I teach this 12-week program. I'll break it down for you. In 12 weeks.
It's not a 5-year program.
Not a
It's
5-year
not a
program.
full year program. It's a 12-week program.
And what we do is 95%, I wouldn't say 100%, but 95% of your financial stress, overwhelm, lack of confidence, fear, it goes away because you learn the structure, the system of money, how money operates in a systematic fashion. It's a model to follow, and it's a millionaire model, meaning if you apply it, it works. So it takes all the guesswork out of money, lack of clarity out of money, you don't even have to understand the complexities of it because the model works. So the first 2 weeks of the 12 weeks is we talk about mindset, but we talk about mindset like minimalism and essentialism and stoicism and gratitude and frequency in very practical terms.
Bring it on.
And we look at our beliefs about money, what our parents said about money. We really look at what we're still carrying, what we're saying to our kids that our parents said to us. And then we rewrite those beliefs and patterns. We discover these patterns, we rewrite them, how we were the day before and how we want to be with money beliefs moving forward. We rewrite the beliefs. We're bringing the subconscious to the conscious. We're becoming aware of them. The next 2 weeks is just that we go deeper into those 5 categories and you get into your money. So this either we love our money and we're in it, but it's still disorganized and all over the place, or we're terrified of our money and haven't looked at it in a long time, just pay our bills. But through the exercises, I teach you the principles and just everything you need to know about money that we should have learned in school. Like I'm your professor, I'm your money teacher. And then you apply these through exercises and homework. So you get the 5 categories and you start you look at, like I said, 90 days of your expenses, and you start putting them in these categories. And what you'll start to notice by doing this work, again, this is just following the model. You're just filling in the blanks. You have to go find your money, but then you just put it in the blanks. And then you'll see that, oh my goodness, I've got money. All my money is in this one category. I don't have money in all the categories. So, but by doing this, we're starting to get awareness of our money, where it is, where it isn't. And we can see why, we start to discover why it's not working for us. The next 2 weeks, you're really uncovering where your money's going, where it's not going, what's working, what's not working, but that's uncovered. We're really digging underneath. You're uncovering your patterns with money. You're uncovering your fears with money. You're uncovering all these things you didn't even know. You're uncovering your dysfunction. You're covering what's functional. But we're really uncovering all these things so that we can fix them, because we're all habitualized. We're doing things that aren't working, but we're not aware of what's not working or why it's not working. So that's what we're doing in that period.
And all the same time, though, that they're just learning how to manage their money. And how do they go about learning about your program? What do they do? Do they sign up to talk to someone?
Yeah, so Brad will put a link in the box, and again, so I'm going to talk, so real quick, I'll finish real quick with Lisa, 2 more minutes. I'm going to just explain the program if you're interested. And then I'm going to offer 2 things, but so anyway,
Perfect.
the R, like I said, for ratio, and this is what I call the millionaire formula. This ratio that you're going to learn and put into effect will put you on track to become a millionaire. Why? Because it's math and it's just a very simple formula, and you apply the math and apply the formula, and then you're on track. B, what I say these buckets is actually, you're going to upload what's called a chart of accounts, which means all your money is totally organized in this thing called QuickBooks Online. And this, you're going to become a money master. And again, we just make it very easy for you, but it allows you, and you're going to set up your buckets, your bank accounts, your credit cards, everything into one financial system so that all of your money is in one place. So it's not disorganized. Your money has to be organized if it's going to grow. And then S stands for sweeping, which you're going to learn how to move your money to these different buckets and have money grow and how to start to cause it to multiply. So that's happening. You're building all this and doing this over 12 weeks. We coach you. It's online. Since you watch videos of me teaching, we do weekly calls. You get coaching sessions, and it's a full 12-week, fully immersion. Thank you. Immersion into your money. You're going to love money by the time you're done. It's going to be so organized. You're going to master money. You're going to be a money boss. And believe it or not, in only 12 weeks, you're going to radically transform and change your money life. Like, I offer 100% money back guarantee if you finish the class and it didn't change your life. And I think there's been 2 refunds in 5 years of doing this. So, you know, I'm pretty confident in that. But anyway, that's the 12 weeks. So if you're interested in that, and or you just want what we call a money breakthrough call, meaning money is a nemesis, you're in a very difficult situation and you just need some advice, a consulting session, a therapy session, whatever you need. Brad put in here a link to do a call. And this is what we call a money breakthrough call. And it's 45 minutes to 60 minutes of just listening to you and your situation. And let's just get to the bottom of what's going on.
That's generous.
And how are you doing? And you'll either be with me or with my #1 money coach. Her name is Emily. And she studied under me. She's taken all my programs. She's my master, protege, if you will. And again, these 45 minutes are so valuable. And I just really encourage you to do it. If you just want to ask more about the program, we'll tell you about it. And, or if you want like a coaching session. And I have people that, I do one-on-ones with that, pay me 5 figures to spend a day with me and a weekend with me. So 45 minutes again has a real monetary value attached to it. So just, just keep that in mind. And the final thing I say to that is, I really encourage everyone to sign up for a call. Just do it. Because
a call that's 60 minutes, everybody should be saying yes to. Is the number in the chat? Is there a way to sign up for it? I mean, the link, not the number, the link.
Yeah, the link's in the
Brad's
chat.
got it. I see him up there.
And there's going to be this thing that goes in your head that says, I'm embarrassed of my situation, or I don't want to talk about it, or, I don't want to feel like a fool because Krisstina knows all this money. And if I open my mouth, I'm going to sound foolish. It's all story. And just get over it. And we're going to have a great conversation. And just a little story, like I started with nothing. I've been in the worst financial situations of my life. I've created money mess and money havoc. And I can tell you stories that, would bring you to tears. Don't have time to go into that, but I'm just telling you that there's no financial situation you're in that I haven't been in myself. So I say all this humbly and say this as an example of whatever I've been able to build, which today is full financial freedom. If I've been able to do it, anybody can, and I can totally teach you how to do it.
Amen. Man, girl, you know so much. You're just besides having built wealth, you're a wealth of information. And what a jewel you are for other people. What a wealth of information you are. I adore you.
Well, thank you. Well, I thank everybody for being here. This is a lot. In fact, the stay to the end is so commendable because
it is
for a ton.
It is. And, in this, I just want to end that we're all going to bump up against some stuff in our life, and it's genetic. It comes through our inherited patterns, right? With money and how that shows up. And so just know that most of your money, even though you've got it dialed in consciously, the big parts are in the unconscious. And that's the stuff we inherited. You might be aware of some things, some patterns, but I promise you there's a lot underneath that. But one thing to do to start working through that is to focus on figuring it out. And there can be another opportunity where I can talk more about epigenetics and how money works with it, how it shows up in our life, how scarcity as a frequency around money can also show up as scarcity of in other areas of your life, the scarcity of being loved by people, feeling that can be in a relationship, the scarcity of belief in who you are. And I promise you, it's all in there, and you are worthy of having money grow. I promise it doesn't matter where you are, how old you are worthy of having money grow. And I really want to encourage you to say yes to a phone call and figure out, in fact, just to be able to talk your money story will be so freeing for you. And have somebody on the other end say, and you could do this. Isn't that what we all need, is someone to go have some clarity and give us some clarity about what we need? Yeah, I think everybody does. So thank you for being here for this long. It's been a great call. Krisstina, I am honored to have you and share you with my group. I have a great group, and it's just been a pleasure.
Thank you. Well, thanks again for everybody that went to the very end. We've been about 10 minutes over. Also, if you have any money questions, always here for that as well. Brad, if you'll put in a link to the workbook again. If you don't do a call, at least do the workbook. I recommend you do the workbook and then do a call.
Yeah.
But anyway, just know we're here to help. I want to get you on the money track towards
anybody lasting here that has a question for us.
Yeah.
I have a few written down, but if people would like, they can email me. I dropped my email in the chat, and I'll send them a personal response.
Okay.
We have a few that are here. If the people want to hang out, we have Megan and Jeanette who have really good questions. But otherwise,
are they still on?
Let's see.
Megan is.
Megan is, yes.
Okay. Roll it out for her.
Megan asks, how can you keep an abundance mindset while still saving?
The reason why I'm stumbling is I'm wondering if I'm understanding the question. Abundance mindset is saving.
Yeah.
So when we have an abundance mindset, it's part of the abundance as the savings grow.
Yeah.
The scarcity mindset means we don't have a savings because either we for all different reasons that Lisa talks about. But yes, the more the money grows, the more we experience the abundance, and savings is abundance through a money experience that shows up in the bank account.
Right. And from my experience with clients is, as they begin to save it, is that urge that if I have it, I need to spend it. Right. And so you get to create that muscle through savings of expanding your wealth and feeling comfortable in it. You get to own it. You get to feel comfortable in it. You get to expand with your money. That is so freeing and confident building. Yeah. That's the way you look at it.
Yeah. And so I put in abundance comes with all the buckets. It does. And these buckets start growing, and then there's abundance as a mindset, but there's abundance as experience. And the money experience of abundance is the buckets keep filling, the money, more money comes in, the more savings, the more all this stuff, and it just grows, and then it starts building on itself, and that's that compounding snowball effect. And there's just more abundance, some more abundance, and you're more grateful, and you're calling more in, and then more happens, and that's, but we have to get into that energy, and we have to get into that field for that to happen, which means we have to break all the habits and beliefs that we're currently stuck in.
Sure. Any other one, Brad? It's the least
it was
we
Jeanette,
can do.
and Jeanette's off.
Jeanette's off.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, go ahead and give it to me and let's answer it anyway.
Sure. It's actually a very good question. I think probably a lot of people have on this call. And that is, how do you balance getting out of debt while still building wealth?
Mm. Take it on, Krisstina.
Yeah, that's a good one. So the first thing I like to say about debt is most Americans have debt. So the thing about debt is to understand that it's a very normal thing, and because debt is just so easy, and it's not a bad thing. It's nothing to be ashamed of. And so the first thing about debt is that the first, I'm kind of going off the exact question, but it's to look at debt as just a fact, is try to detach any emotion to it, because it's very easy to start feeling bad and feeling bad about ourselves. So we just look at it as a number. And then I have a whole debt program that I teach. So my tendency is to go in and start teaching. So I'm not going to do that, but it's just to understand it's a number. And to know that once we understand the number and then we commit to paying off this, what's called consumer debt, there's very easy ways to do this. Again, there's a structure and a framework for how to pay off your debt very quickly. And again, we teach that in the program, but just to leave you here. But what happens is that when we have this number, where it doesn't go down is we're paying minimum payments. So we want to do what's called an accelerated debt payoff, where we follow a system that's going to pay off the debt fast, but it's still going to pay it off over time. So when we look at our money and we're going to say, hey, I'm going to reorganize my current spending habits and current expenses, that I'm going to have a certain amount of money that's called, let's say, this surplus, meaning I'm not spending this money on my lifestyle. So let's just say it's $1,000 a month. Now, you're making all your credit card payments the same, but let's say this $1,000 a month, 500 of the $1,000 a month of the surplus we've created through the work that we've done, we're going to do that $500 to pay additional towards principal of one card. And we just keep, if you're paying that extra amount that goes directly towards principal on top of your minimum payment, you're going to accelerate faster towards paying off that one credit card. And then goes the next credit card, the next credit card. The other 500, you're going to put in your investment bucket, or just put it in an index fund, or you're going to put it somewhere. So I teach that it doesn't matter. It could be $50 each one. It's just getting into the mindset and the practice of changing, of not doing anything. And I'm going to put an extra 50 or an extra 100, an extra 500 towards credit card payoff. And I'm going to do the same thing for my investments. And I say to do them equally, because we want to put our money to work and pay off our debt, so the banks aren't getting compounding. But what we're doing is we think, well, there's not left over. It'd be such a small amount. I'm going to wait till some later date. So we're not making progress on either one of these. So in my class, I teach, I don't care what the number is, just get in the practice of doing putting some money in each of these buckets and do it at the same time. And it doesn't have to be a lot. A little bit matters. It compounds really quickly.
And it does. I've paid off, it's been a while, but I've paid off a lot of debt before, and it works. This principle works. All right.
All right, it's late. You guys have hung on for a long time. You guys get an award.
The 4 of you get an award as the high achievers in the money category today.
That's right. You guys rock.
Oh, you rock. Thank you. Thank you. And there'll be a replay up in the Facebook group. So don't hesitate to look at it again, write some numbers down, and go find your numbers. Go learn to love numbers.
Yes, go find your numbers. That's a great way to close. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. And I look forward to talking to every one of you. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.